Welcome back to the big club, man. Hope you guys are good. We're going to talk about the black cube, why the elites worship Saturn. You know, there's a connection between the black cube and Saturn, but we just see the sculptures, we just see the logos, we just see the Muslims in Mecca worshipping this black cube. And it all comes back to one thing: Saturn, not the planet, the God, the force, the prison. So today we're going to dive deep. We're going to expose the occult reality behind the black cube, why the elites worship Saturn, why it's hidden in plain sight, and what does it do to you without even knowing it. I know for a fact that in New York City, there's a massive black cube sculpture called the Alamo. In Australia, they have one. In Denmark, there's another one. And there's also a literal company named Black Cube that does surveillance. In Mecca, the Kaaba, Islam's holiest site, apparently, is a giant black cube that millions of people circle during pilgrimage. So is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Even the Jewish people, they have these small black cube boxes tied to their body during prayer, not player. And they reflect the same pattern. Why the cube? Why is it black? Why everywhere? Now, let's talk about Saturn. In Roman mythology, Saturn is the god of time, decay, endings, karma, the one who devours his own children. If you watched Blood of Zeus on Netflix, you should watch Blood of Zeus on Netflix. That's really a good series that explains the Greek mythology and all of these gods, all of these mythologies, especially the Greek gods, Blood of Zeus, because Zeus is a certain son. I stand to be corrected if I'm not sure, if I'm not accurate. But anyway, let's just get into it. Watch Blood of Zeus on Netflix. So Saturn is the god of time, decay, endings, karma. And to the Greeks, he's Kronos. Saturn is Kronos to the Greeks, the keeper of time. And this isn't some mythological throwaway. In the occult, Saturn represents structure, authority, limitation, control. He's the enforcer of the physical world. He's the judge. He's the warden. So Saturn is also called the Lord of the Rings, not in some fantasy world, but in reality because of the rings around the planet Saturn. And those who know, those in power, they worship this archetype. They worship Saturn. They build entire systems, economic, religious, educational, around Saturnian control. These are systems that restrict you. They box you in like a cube. So the cube, it actually represents control. It symbolizes materialism, rigidity, reality as prison. The cube is Saturn's symbol, And if you really think about it, a cube has six sides, 6 points, 6 edges per side. Isn't that the 666? Isn't that the number of man? Isn't that the number of the beast? So this isn't just numerology, man. It is symbolic programming, And the cube is everywhere. You just don't think about it. You live in your house, it's a cube. Your office, it's a cube. You look at cubes all day, your phone, your TV, your monitor, even your coffins. That's the final cube. So it's all Saturnian. It's all structure. It's all limitation. They don't want you free. They want you boxed in spiritually and mentally. So now we have to understand, now that we've talked about Saturn, we've talked about the black cube, we've talked about where we could find it, what it represents. Now we have to understand another part. Is Saturn Satan? So let's go deeper, And some researchers, especially in esoteric and Gnostic traditions, and me as well, I say yes, Saturn is actually Satan. Satan is the demiurge, the false god who created the physical world so he can trap us in it. In Gnosticism, the demiurge is the blind god, Yaldabaoth, who traps us in a fake world of matter, suffering, and limitation. Does that sound familiar? After all, Saturn is the lord of karma, the one who keeps you in the cycle. So even when we depict what the demiurge possibly looks like, the planet Saturn is around him, or at least at the back of him. It's a giant lion head and having, what is that? Is that a snake? But a reptilian sort of like body, a giant lion head with a reptilian body or a snake-like body with the Saturn planet at the back of him. So what does that tell you? There's simply a connection between the demiurge and Saturn, which we now know that Saturn is actually Satan, So the elites, man, they don't want liberation. They want control, So they channel the energy of Saturn because they worship the demiurge. You must understand that the demiurge gave them this power that they have. If you study the Bible, you're going to understand where all of these sacrifices come from, where all of these rituals come from. The demiurge, he's the one that gave the elites these religions, and these religions, they are used to control you, the normal folk. So they channel Saturn, the ultimate warden of this reality. They become agents of the cube, of control, of the prison. So somebody might ask, so why do they flash the symbolism at us? Why do they flash this at us? Aren't they supposed to keep this a secret? Why show us the black cube? Why put it in architecture, in logos, in music videos, in religious sites? See, it's not just decoration. They're not just putting it there because they're trying to be funny. It is a ritual programming. You must understand that symbols, they speak to the subconscious. You see a cube and you don't think anything, but your soul feels it, your subconscious feels it. It remembers that you're trapped, that you're limited, and that this world has rules that you didn't agree to. So the elites, they use symbols to reinforce the spell. They don't need to control you physically if you've already accepted the box mentally. Look at today's tech, You've got AI, you've got blockchain, you've got surveillance, you've got virtual prisons of attention and dopamine. It's not all random. It's all Saturnian. It is cold, it is efficient, it has no emotion. It is just order and data. Even black cubes, they show up in sci-fi movies. They show up in the Transformer movie. I mean, that thing, the All Spark, that's a literal black cube. In Marvel, the Tesseract, a cosmic cube of limitless power. What are they telling you? In Space Odyssey, a black rectangular object that triggers evolution. They're telling you that Saturn is king, Satan is king, Satan decides, you know. So if you don't break out, you'll be consumed by the machine, you'll be controlled, you will be programmed, you'll be under this Saturnian control. But here's the thing, the cube is a prison, but only if you accept it. You see, certain rules matter, but not spirit. He's the king of the material realm, just like Yaldabaoth. He created this materialistic, realm that we live in. But they do not rule the spirit. The soul is not from here. You feel it, the sense that life is fake, there's something beyond all this. That's the key. And when we talk about the soul, we're also going to have to mention, where does this soul come from, and now we're going to have to go into Sophia, if you understand Gnosticism, So the elites, they use Saturn to box in your spirit. Your body could also be Saturn. Everything is Saturnian in the physical realm, in the material realm. It keeps you focused on time, work, rules, guilt, fear, but your soul isn't bound by any of that. It is eternal. So the moment you realize that, you take the first step out of the cube, so you must understand that you've been living in a cube your whole life, worshiping it, working in it, sleeping in it. And now once you see the cube, once you see Saturn for what he is, you can start to dismantle his grip on your mind. Once you understand Saturn as the demiurge, once you understand the demiurge as Satan, once you understand that the God of the Bible is actually Saturn, the God of the Muslims is actually Saturn, and again, he is the demiurge, he is Satan. He just reveals himself in, oh, I'm Allah, oh, I'm Jehovah, oh, I'm Yahweh. But that's Saturn, You can say that's Kronos if you want to. So the black cube isn't just a shape, it is a prison. But you don't have to stay locked inside it, not if you wake up, not if you reclaim your power, And not if you realize that Saturn is only a god if you let him be. At the end of the day, your soul decides. That's why they have to put all of these symbols in front of you. That's why they have to do all of these rituals so you can actually worship this thing without you even realizing that you're worshiping this thing and giving your power to it. They have to do that because otherwise, if you don't do that, they don't get any power. So your energy is ultimately what builds this reality for them, is ultimately what leads to them having control over you. That's the truth. So once you turn away from all of the Saturnian control, even though it's a bit difficult, but you can, because once you realize, that's when the first step starts. See you again.